disclaimer, the information that is in here that I'll share builds on previous trainings. So it builds on a 101 and it builds on a personal resilience planning training. And so there's some things that, hopefully you've had some trauma-informed training, maybe you know some of these things already, but hopefully some of this will apply and be useful to you where you're at today. So where are we headed? We've only got about 20 minutes, but we're gonna define resilient in communication. To my knowledge, this isn't something too many people are talking about it, so we're gonna kind of conceptualize what it's gonna mean to us today, and I'll offer some ideas about that. We're gonna quickly look at a model of communication and talk about what noise means in that model, and then talk about a few ways for overcoming noise in order to build positive communications with the people either we're working with or the people in our homes, really anybody. So really quick, and you can come off of your, you can come off mute for this instead of in the chat, but what would you say the main goal of communication is? And you can feel free to put that in the chat if you want, or you can unmute. What's the main goal of communication? For some reason, I can't see my chat. So if somebody can see the chat and there's something in there, feel free to read it out.
For me,
validating.
I think it's a sharing of understandings between more than one person.
Great. Yeah, Kristen?
Validating one's experiences. So, just, yeah, like they're true to them. So I believe that you believe that,
Okay. Yeah, like trusting somebody's experience and letting it inform the way you're kind of thinking and responding to them.
Yep.
Awesome.
I would say to exchange information.
Yeah, exchange information. Okay. Is there one more? One other person who wants to offer an answer? No? Okay, well, if not, I would offer that the answer is it depends, because our reasons for communication can be myriad. It can be to exchange information. It can be to understand someone better. It can be because I need you to get something done for me, and so I'm just kind of telling you this. So it depends on our motivations, our context, what the main goal of communication is. For our purposes today, we're going to assume that the main goal of communication, if we're going to be trauma informed, is to build resilience, in ourselves, in the people that we are communicating with. And hopefully that's going to trickle down to our environments that we're working in, our workplaces, our homes, our communities. So if we defining resilient communication, again, this is just me offering you what this could look like, what this might include. So I would say that resilient communication includes does three things. First, it reflects the 4 R's of being trauma informed. So this is kind of one of those basic 101 things that we learned, that when you're trauma informed, there's these 4 things that you do. We kind of expect that this is how you're going to function, how you're going to think about trauma in the world and in the people around you. So first, you're going to realize the widespread impact of trauma. You're going to realize people have been through some stuff. Like, I don't know what your stuff is, but you've got some stuff. I'm going to understand that it's there. And then I'm going to recognize the signs that maybe you're working through some stuff. So I'm going to be able to recognize maybe when you're having a response that seems out of order, or maybe I see you start to dysregulate in your body and I don't know why. Like, maybe some of those things are signs of past trauma, and not just that in this moment you're upset with me, or it has to do with this specific context. It could have to do with something that has happened to you in the past, and I can leave space for that because I recognize that that's true. And then I'm going to respond with trauma-informed policies and practices. So this is from the organizational standpoint, when we think about designing policies and practices that really have at the heart of them the well-being of the human, and understanding that they've been through some stuff. We don't want to cause more trauma. We don't want to make what they've experienced in the past worse. We really want to do things that enhance resilience, encourage flourishing, which we'll talk about. If you are someone who does not have power in your organization to maybe make those sweeping changes to policies and practices, I know for me, when I've been in that level of practice, it's really about how I choose to conduct myself. And so I'm going to respond in a way that is trauma informed. I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to make my expectations clear. I'm going to do certain things in the way that I live my life and interact that are responsive to this understanding that trauma is kind of common and people have been through some stuff. And then finally, you're going to resist re-traumatization. So to the best of your ability, you're going to not re-traumatize someone. That's not to say you won't have an experience where you trigger them without knowing that you did it. But you're really going to try to put the person at the heart of your interaction and resist anything that knowingly could re-traumatize them. The second thing that resilient communication does is that it models individual resilience. So if you've been through a training, you understand that when we talk about resilience, we have this model that we call ARC plus, however you want to think of it. These top three the blue pieces are skills that relate to the Trauma Institute's model, the ARC model. So this basically says that there's things that we do internally that help build our resilience and our ability to bounce back from difficulty. And those things include attachment, which is just building strong relationships, feeling connected to a family, a world that's greater than us. Self-regulation can be kind of at two levels when you think about your body's ability to regulate itself. And that is a very, very basic kind of under the surface thing. Like you're not consciously thinking about these things. This is just your body in relation to itself and ability to regulate kind of physical things or physiological things. And then the other piece of that is being able to name and express emotions in a healthy way. So part of it has to do with your body's relationship to itself physiologically. And the second part of it has to do with being able to name and express emotions and feelings effectively. That's self-regulation. Competencies and confidence has to do with my ability to make proactive decisions about myself that are good for me. And I believe that I can make good decisions about myself and I have control over what happens to me and I am capable of keeping control. It can relate to self-confidence, self-efficacy, my ability to do my job, my belief in myself, my belief in my abilities. And then gratitude and hope are the two pieces that we've added to this over the years. So just practicing gratitude. And again, these are things that as you're thinking about this, ask yourself, are you doing these things? Do you have these skills as an individual? Because you can't model it for someone else if you're not doing it yourself. So practicing gratitude, because gratitude is going to amplify the positive and connect you to the recipient of the gratitude. So whether it's a person and you express gratitude and that connects you with them, or it's the world around you and you just end up feeling grateful for the tree outside or the bird chirping, and that just makes you feel connected to the greater world. Gratitude can do that. And then hope is about seeing something in the future, having a future orientation, also seeing the pathway to get there and believing that you can get there. So there's three parts of hope. And part of this is about, having different experiences outside of yourself, understanding a broader world. This is why we say kids need more experiences outside of themselves, because it fosters hope. It helps them see the future. And then they begin to kind of see their path forward into a different future they couldn't see before. So those are skills that we call resilient. And so when you're thinking about what you're communicating to people and you want to communicate with resilience, the first question I would ask is, are you living these out? And do you communicate these in the way that you conduct yourself in your personal life, in your expectations for your team or for the people you serve? Nobody's gonna be perfect at this. It's not easy, and we're all human. But it's that hope piece. We see it and we understand that that's where we want to go. And so how do I create that pathway for myself to be more resilient so that I can model it for other people? The third thing that let me read this quote. So the reason that modeling resilient behavior is important is because most human behavior is learned observationally through modeling, from observing others, a person forms an idea of how new behaviors are performed, and on later occasions, that coded information, what they've stored in their brain, serves as their guide for action. So if I see you acting a certain way, that kind of gives me a frame of reference for how I can act in the future. That's how I learn behavior. And that's from childhood up. And that's from Albert Bandura, the father of social learning theory. The third thing that I would offer resilient communication does is that it promotes flourishing. There's some new things in the literature about flourishing. The way that it's kind of defined is really about well-being. So asking yourself, again, these questions, am I experiencing happiness and life satisfaction? Am I physically and mentally healthy? Do I have a sense of meaning and purpose? Am I living out of character and virtue that are important in my value system? And do I have close social relationships? This is how we define whether or not we're flourishing in our own lives. And then also thinking about the people we're working with. So whether this is our colleagues, we're leading a team, we're working with students, or we're working with folks in the community, thinking about, they're not going to be here. So what are they lacking, and how can our small interaction with them build some level of flourishing, some level of resilience? How can we support and promote human well-being through our communication with them? So really quick, I'm going to show you this model of communication. I'm not going to unpack all of it. That's for an extended training. There's just not enough time right now to do that. I'm happy to answer questions offline though, if anybody wants me to. But the kind of the key takeaways from this model, this is the transactional model of communication. It's probably the most complex. It's more complex than kind of some simple linear models. And the reason that works is because this is how actual communication works. It's really complex. It's not linear. There's all kinds of things going on in the atmosphere when we're communicating. So encoding, decoding, and message sending happens simultaneously. So it's this idea that I have a thought, I have to turn it into words, I send my words to you, you take my words in, you filter it through all of your lenses, and then you come up with a thought and what you think I said, and then you formulate what you want to tell me back, and you put it through all of your filters, get some words for it, send it back to me. So it's not one person encoding, one person decoding. It's really all happening simultaneously. The context for communication matters almost as much as the communication itself. So the context that we're in, whether it's the social context, relational context, cultural context, or physical and psychological context, all of those things are important to communication. Again, can't unpack all of it right now, but just know that the context for communication matters almost as much as the communication itself. The goal is shared meaning. So I think somebody said that earlier. We want to co-create and have a same meaning around the messages that are being sent. That's how we're going to know our communication is effective, if we're in the same place and understand things the same way. And then the key thing we're going to spend a little bit of time on now is talking about noise. So this noise in the environment and in the context is what interrupts the process and prohibits effective communication. So those noises, we're going to talk about really 5 different types of noises, but there's 4 slides that go along with them. Those noises include physical noise. So those can be things like, if you're watching TV, there's static, you might be familiar with that. Environmental noises, so environment, in our home or in our office, outside, just any type of environmental noise. And then also if we've got additional technological noise going on, we've got dropped calls or spotty signals, and it makes it difficult for us to hear people. We're all working virtually. So we have, any given level of interruption from people we love, small humans, dogs. This is my dog. This is not my human, just to say that. But this is anything in the environment. The outside environment is the physical noise that can get in the way of hearing a message or catching everything that somebody's saying, anything that gets in the way of good communication. Or if you're on Zoom, when somebody has the TV on in the background and they don't have themselves on mute, or we hear somebody chewing into their microphone, those are physical noises that we're experiencing in the virtual world. Then you've got physiological noise. I'm hot. I'm itchy. Maybe I can't hear. I have a hearing problem or a processing issue that causes it to be more challenging for me to receive communication or to send communication if it's processing. I don't feel good, and I'm just hungry. So physiological noises are anything that causes our body to have to work harder to regulate itself, because then it kind of puts us at a higher baseline. We all kind of learned that during COVID. Like, we had stress before COVID, right? Like, our stress, if you can't see me, like, my hands are at a certain level, like our stress was here. But then going through COVID and all of the transitioning and the shifting kind of put us at a higher baseline of stress, so that everything else we did kind of became more taxing, more difficult. We started forgetting things, losing words, we got clumsy. Different things started happening that just weren't normal for us, but it's because our baseline of stress got higher. That's what physiological noise does. So when we're talking about communication, if I'm sitting here and I'm tired, I'm sluggish, I'm hungry, I'm really itchy. That happens to me a lot because I have eczema. So itchy really is a thing I understand. It's very distracting, and it makes it hard sometimes for me to completely hear someone and what they're saying to me. And sometimes hard for me to formulate a resilient response because I'm agitated. I'm just at a higher level of arousal and agitation than I normally would be. And so communication becomes much more challenging in that moment. Semantic and cultural noise, we're not going to get too far into this, but the idea that, so semantic, it's about words. So maybe we don't speak the same language. Maybe you're using slang or I'm using a slang term that you don't understand. I had a student tell me that my shoes were on fleek one time, and I could tell by the way he said it that it was a good thing, but I hadn't heard that term yet. So I said, "Thank you. What does that mean?" And then he told me, and then we were on the same page. We understood each other. Our communication improved from that point on because he could use his language and I could understand it. Sometimes we use jargon, so words and phrases that people outside of our maybe educational settings or professional settings don't really understand. So that synergizes with our corporate ecosystem. We're going to blue sky that. Let's parking lot that. Like, different things that we say that maybe other people don't understand. So as much as you can, just avoid using these types of terms, especially if you're in like network meetings or you're working with a community member, things like that. It just makes communication harder when you have to explain your terms before you can use them effectively. When we think about cultural noise that can get in the way of communication, so sometimes we think about language, food, clothing, kind of those things that we see above this waterline. But with cultural noise, what happens, what we think about is that there's a whole iceberg. I love icebergs because I think they keep us humble, because it kind of reminds us, I can only see this little bit. What I can't see is what's below the surface. And below the surface, when we're thinking about our communication with people who are different than us, or maybe people who look the same as us, but who ultimately have a different experience than us, there are different cultural and social norms. There's different perceptions. There's different values, attitudes, beliefs, communication styles, so many things that influence the way that they are hearing our message and the way that we're hearing them. And it can often lead to this kind of interaction where somebody's thinking, do you even hear the words I'm saying? And the other person is saying, well, I mean, the ones I like or the ones I understand, but I don't understand all the words. And I certainly don't understand the beliefs, attitudes, values, and perceptions that are under them. And so it makes it really hard for me to hear what you mean. So the fourth type of noise we'll talk about is psychological noise. We're not going to watch that video that's on there. But the psychological noise are kind of those things that are under the surface that really build where our behaviors come from. It's a huge motivator for what we see in our actions and other people's actions. So in this model of the cultural iceberg, beliefs, attitudes, values would be a few of those things. And so if you're not familiar with what those are and the differences in them, an attitude is a way of thinking or feeling with regards to someone or something. A belief is an idea that's accepted as true without any facts. And values are a person's own set of principles which they consider of great importance. None of this is bad. Like, sometimes we think, oh, you're accepting that without fact, and we think that's bad. Well, all of us accept things without fact. All of us have beliefs. All of us have a value system. All of us have attitudes, and these things kind of live under the surface. And I think in our culture, that's something that is incredibly challenging, because we have a lot of things happening under the surface that's motivating people's actions, words, things of that nature. And until you take the time to understand people better and have open communication about maybe harder, deeper things, and just trying to overcome those deeper barriers, it's really hard to understand, to empathize, to be open, and to have effective and resilient communication. This video on here is about blind spots. It's really interesting. It's if anybody's going to be at the Virginia Association of Housing Counselors training that I'm doing, we'll do the videos and stuff. I think it's next. No, I think it's in 2 Wednesdays. But we'll do this training, but we'll do the extended version. Other psychological noise would be like self-talk, the conversation we're having with ourselves about the conversation we're having with someone else. We all know we have it. And then this is how I kind of signify triggers. So trauma triggers, if I have past traumas and something happens that triggers me in that moment, it's like a trap door. And I just go back to, my brain reminds me, the last time you felt this way, you really needed to protect yourself because you got hurt. Or something bad happened. And so you need to make sure you are safe. And so I start to do things to protect myself. So trauma triggers can become a part of psychological noise, as well as stressors that we're going through currently. And James McCroskey, who I can't see it on the bottom of my screen, but he wrote the Rhetorical Communication. It's a book on communication. But what he says is that the noise within the receiver, the psychology of the receiver, will determine to a great extent what the receiver will perceive. And so if we've been through trauma-informed trainings, we understand how we ask the question, what happened to you versus what's wrong with you, and we really understand the way that the impact of trauma gets into the brain and the body. We understand that that affects us lifelong, both physically and emotionally. And it is going to affect our perceptions and how we're able to receive messages from other people, and send messages back to people. So we want to talk about how we overcome the noise. We're not going to talk too much about mine. We're going to skip that part, but we'll give a few pointers. And Kaylee, I can see that I've already gone for 20 minutes. Am I good for another few minutes?
This meeting was scheduled for through 3:30. That's what people were expecting.
Okay.
And you came at the end of the agenda. So other than our next meeting time and any questions people have, you're good.
Okay. All right. I'll keep going. Hopefully everybody's still hanging on. I don't think we've dropped anybody since I started talking, so that's a good thing. So let's talk a little bit about how to overcome this type of noise that we're talking about. So overcoming other people's noise, physical noise, I mean, you can't always overcome people's noise. They have to choose to do it themselves, especially these basic things. But when you're in person, you can create a physically safe and calming space so that when they come into your space, they don't feel hectic or chaotic or unwelcome. You want them to feel like you're someone who wants them there, who's ready to listen, ready to receive them and work with them, especially if we're talking about a relationship with a client or a colleague or somebody that you supervise. Especially in a virtual world, you can allow flexibility, right? We know there's going to be physical noises. We know that there's going to be interruptions, maybe from family members or pets or other things going on, because things can get hectic. But always just be clear about your expectations. So if that keeps happening, but you don't want that to happen, then just make sure you say, like, it sounds like you've got a lot going on. This is our regular meeting time. Would a better meeting time work? Or just instructing them, during this time, you really need to be without distraction so that I can support you better. How can we facilitate that? How, what's going to work for you to be in a place without distraction and without noise around you so that we can have an effective time together. But always being clear about those expectations is so important, because people can't live up to expectations if you don't communicate them to them. Model good virtual meeting behaviors. So just be a good meeting person. Pay attention if you're meeting virtually. Do everything you can to diminish noise. Be in what seems like a welcoming space, or kind of a space with little visual distraction, at least in the part of you that's being seen virtually. Just try to keep the interruptions to a minimum, be engaged in the conversation, try to be able to look as much as you can eye to eye, even though that's hard depending on where things are on the screen. Physiological noise. So this really comes down to that part where we modeled, talking about modeling resilient behaviors. So encouraging self-care, modeling those 5 characteristics that we talked about in the ARC Plus model, and supporting flourishing and well-being through policy and practice. So through your team norms, making sure that you are putting your humans first. So whether the humans you're working with are a professional team of people, or they're the clients at the community level, you want to make sure you're checking in on them. That's when skills like empathy, things like that come into play. But you really just want to make sure that you're putting human needs first, making sure that you're practicing respectful team norms, there's communication, solid communication, and good policies that help with time off if it's needed, with health related issues, when your team or your clients need to get some sort of support related to physical or mental health, or other resources that they may need. So whatever you need to do to support flourishing and well-being of your team or of your clients is going to help diminish that physiological noise. Psychological and cultural noise. So consider your own private cues. What's going on under the surface? Are there implicit biases and blind spots that impact your interaction with this person? Do you have an attitude about that person? You don't know why it's there, but you have a specific attitude about that person or that type of person. Again, it's not wrong. We all have these things, but the way forward in that is to be able to say, why? What is it about that person, and how can I change? How can I reframe my feelings and my thoughts about this? Do I need to get to know them better? Do I need to understand their experience more to begin to erase my own blind spots, and be more open to different types of people in my communication? So a few specific kind of skill related things we can talk about is co-regulation. We can use the window of tolerance. I'll show you these things. Using leadership empowerment behaviors, which I'll kind of give you an overview of. Use reflective listening skills. I will use a video that I have for that because it just makes me laugh, and I think it'll make you laugh too, and everybody needs that on a Thursday afternoon. And then employing a trauma-informed approach. And again, we'll go over these really quickly. And this one in particular, this is kind of one of those things hopefully you've seen before, but maybe you haven't. If you need more information, let me know. But the window of tolerance is just kind of a visual tool to help us understand where our resilient space is. So when we're inside of our window, it means we feel good. Things feel right. I'm able to cope with the things that are coming my way. I feel kind of calm, relaxed, but I'm not tired or sluggish. I'm alert. I'm paying attention to what's around me, but I don't feel anxious. When I start to feel dysregulated, so this goes into that bodily piece of, the body sense of itself, and ability to regulate itself. Dysregulation can happen in both ways. You can upregulate into hyperarousal these would include being angry, anxious, and revved up, like you're just revved up and ready to go. And then the downshifting or the hypoarousal, when you're going down out of your window of tolerance, you kind of get spacey and sluggish, and it can lead into some emotional disconnecting and like maybe depression, things more of that nature. And your body just kind of takes over, but more of like a shutting down instead of a revving up. So the way to use this, if this is a tool you want to use, is to think about the window of tolerance is where you want to be. So a trigger can throw you out of that window. A stressors might start to squeeze you out, but it's understanding when you start to feel those bodily cues, when you start to feel or see bodily cues from someone else, their hearts racing, maybe you get agitated and fidgety, you your mouth gets dry, your stomach starts to hurt, you kind of start to feel that physical stress come on, and it's different for everybody. That's when you're starting to get dysregulated, and you want to do what you need to do to kind of get back into your window of tolerance. That's why I said this builds, because the thing we do before this is identify the things that we're trying to do to keep ourselves in our window of tolerance and stay resilient, even in the face of stressors. So, so just noticing when your body starts to dysregulate and kind of stopping yourself and thinking, okay, what can I do to get back into my window of tolerance? And then similarly, where's somebody else in their window of tolerance? So if I can see my client, my colleague, my employee is not inside their window of tolerance, first of all, we're not going to get to any logical conclusions. We're not going to have effective communication. We are not going to get to probably where we're trying to get to in this professional interaction. So then I just kind of have to stop and slow down. Same thing with my child, right? Like I have a 14-year-old, and so this happens. I'm ready to get to some logical conclusion, but she's dysregulated, and I just have to say, okay, we're not going to get there. What is it that you need in this moment? And this is a conversation I have in my head, right? I don't say this out loud because she doesn't know. I have to ask myself, what is it that you need from me and from this moment to help you calm down and get back to a place where you can handle life? Once you can get back to that place where you can handle life, then we can handle these other things. But while you're in these orange and red zones, we're not going to get anywhere together, no matter how hard I want to try, no matter how much I want to yell, no matter how much I want to push you. If you're out of your window of tolerance, that's it. We're not going to get anywhere until we're both back in our windows. So that's that tool. Leadership empowerment behaviors. So these are just behaviors that we know leaders employ that help people grow and get to good outcomes. So these behaviors include coaching, informing, leading by example, showing concern and interacting with the team, and participative decision making. This overlaps a lot with when we think about how to build resilience, even in like self-regulation, the coaching and the informing. So I want to help you learn so you can improve. So how can I help you learn and grow? Informing has to do with filling in knowledge gaps. So if you don't know what something is called, or you don't know a certain policy or certain principle, then let me inform you what it is. So you have this knowledge, you have this language, and then you are better for it. Ultimately, you're learning to improve. Leading by example, so sharing relevant experiences within reason, sharing expectations and living out those expectations for yourself, setting the tone for the culture that you're trying to create. Showing concern and interacting with the team. Again, this is a humans first sort of thing, making sure that you're asking, checking in. How are you doing? How are you feeling? Did you eat today? I get asked that a lot by my supervisor. Have you eaten lunch? Because she understands for herself the importance of, if I don't eat, I get hangry. I can't deal with anything. So she will ask all of us, did you eat today? Do we need to eat during this meeting? And so it's just acknowledging, like, we all need to take care of ourselves. Are you taking care of yourself? Okay. And then let's move forward from there. Participative decision-making, this is just about power sharing. So this is collaboration. This interacts with some of the things we'll look at with the trauma-informed, the principles of being trauma-informed. But it's really just about power sharing and not just prescribing. I'm not just prescribing a solution to your problem. I'm not just telling you what to do. I'm engaging you in the process of determining the solution together. All right. So we're going to watch this video about reflective listening. Hopefully it works. Kaylee, when I play this, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear it? I'm going to play it.
First, there was PlayStation, aka PS1. Then there's PS2, PS3, and now PS4. And that makes sense. You'd think after Xbox, there'd be Xbox 2. But no. Next came Xbox 360. And now, after 360, comes Xbox One. Why one? Maybe that's how many seconds of thought they put into naming it.
Can you get the butter, please?
However, with the Xbox One, I can control my entire entertainment system using voice commands. Up until now, I've had to use Leonard.
Then get the other one. Pass the butter.
Dude, hang on. I don't feel like you're taking this dilemma seriously.
Fine, Sheldon. You have my undivided attention.
Okay, now, the PS4 is more angular and sleek looking.
No way.
It's true. But the larger size of the Xbox One may keep it from overheating.
You wouldn't want your gaming system to overheat?
No, see, well, you absolutely would not. And then furthermore, the Xbox One now comes with a Kinect included.
Included?
Yes. Not sold separately. Although the PS4 uses cool new GDDR5 RAM, while the Xbox One is still using the conventional DDR3 memory.
Why would they still be using DDR3? Are they nuts?
See, that's what I thought. But then they go and throw in an ES RAM buffer.
Who is it? Who's they?
The Xbox.
You're kidding!
No, I am not. And this ES RAM buffer should totally bridge the 100 gigabit per second bandwidth gap between the two RAM types.
This is a nightmare. How will you ever make a decision?
See, I don't know. What should I do?
Please pass the butter!
So what you saw there, hopefully, was the shift in Sheldon when Amy shifted and started giving full attention. Their interaction became so much more dynamic. I would say that maybe he felt like she cared. He wanted to open up. He was encouraged to tell her more, to connect with her, to ask her for her advice. And that is the outcome of reflective listening. When you put down your napkin, you put down your wine, you give full attention, and you're listening, and you give back to that person what they're telling you in a way that encourages them to keep telling you more. So some of the things, some of the elements of reflective listening include listening more than you talk, responding to what is personal and what's being said rather than impersonal, distant, or abstract. Restate and clarify what the speaker has said. Don't ask questions or say what you feel, believe, or want. You just restate it. Now, you can ask a clarifying question. I would say that you can ask a clarifying question, but it's also, the goal of it is just so you understand the person that you're communicating with better. That's the ultimate goal. You want to hear them better and understand their situation more. Try to understand the feelings reflected in what the speaker is saying, not just the facts or ideas being presented. And that's when you can say things like, wow, that sounds really hard, or tell me more about how that felt. And that helps with connection. And if I'm connected with someone and I'm giving them space to feel and to think, then they're going to be more apt to work with me in coming to a solution or getting to that shared meaning. They're going to feel attached to me. We're going to have a stronger relationship. Work to develop the best possible sense of the speaker's frame of reference while avoiding the temptation to respond from your own frame of reference. Enter into their experience. So when your cultural iceberg is different than their cultural iceberg, be aware of that. Understand, like, we don't have the same culture. I understand this. That's okay. It's not wrong. We are different. So understand it, and then just ask questions and be curious and try to understand the other person before exerting your own thought or your own opinion about what's happening for them or what's happening in the situation. Be curious. Don't be judgmental. Respond with acceptance and empathy, not with indifference, cold objectivity, or false concern. So, like we saw Amy, once she became open and interested and she put away her indifference and really started paying attention to what Sheldon was saying, he became much more vested in the conversation and excited about what he was talking about and was able to talk through the issue a little bit more. She kind of messed it up at the end when she made it very clear that all she wanted was the butter. But up until that point, she'd done a pretty good job of shifting into these skills. So the last thing is to utilize trauma-informed principles to guide your practice. I'm not going to go over all of these, but these are the principles. So safety, trust and transparency, peer support, collaboration and mutuality, empowerment, voice and choice, and then understanding those foundations of culture, history, and gender, and appreciating those things in your communications. If you need more information about that, SAMHSA's foundational paper about, a trauma-informed approach is really useful just for getting a handle on what these things mean, particularly in a clinical environment. Some new work that's coming out now that's more community oriented is called healing-centered engagement. And so just kind of let your ears perk up to that. And as you have opportunity to learn more about that, or there's trainings offered either through the Southside Tick-In or otherwise, maybe learn a little bit more about that too. All right, so that was a really quick version of that training. Does anybody have any questions that they want to ask?
Leanne, regarding the cultural part of that, something that's been a buzzword, particularly in the chaplaincy circles, has been cultural humility.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really has to do with setting aside your assumptions about someone, because you can be really wrong.
Yeah.
And having an open posture, an open mind as well. Do you think is that similar to what you're talking about?
Yeah, when I say that the iceberg creates humility, it's really about that, because there was a lot of conversation, there's been a lot of conversation about cultural competence. I have to know and understand, and it's very professional, when really sometimes we just need to say, no, what we need is cultural humility. I don't need to act like I know everything about everybody else. What I need to do is sit back and understand that I don't know everything. I can't understand everything. And I need to leave space for you to be you, and even to explain it to me. Like, can I ask questions? Can we have honest conversations? Can we be brave about the way we talk about each other's experience so I can better understand you? And we can better relate. So yeah, absolutely 100%. I think cultural humility is super important when we're coming to the table with people who are different than us, and everybody is different than us.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm, thank you. Any other comments or questions, thoughts? If not, I will hand it back over, I guess, to Kaylee or to Shauna. Who am I giving the mic to?
Thank you. First, thank you very much.
That was lovely. Thank you. Thank you. That was very informative and helpful. And I would like to throw in there one of my personal experiences where I hired a supervisor who would not put her cell phone down and repeatedly told people they could do things because she wasn't listening to what they were asking. And she just really wreaked havoc on the whole system. And when I would talk to her about things that needed to get done, she would say yes, but she wasn't listening to what I was asking her to do. And I really feel like the cell phone has really become a major roadblock in communication with people, because you only need to turn your attention away for a minute and you completely miss the whole gist of what's going on. So that's a really big one. And if you ask somebody to put their phone down or away, they're very offended. Like you've done something, like you're calling them out for acting like a child or something, when really you just want their attention. But that was very helpful and informative. And I would love to sit through the entire presentation sometime when you're offering it somewhere else, and you can send me an invite. I would very much enjoy that. It's always good to have a refresher.
Yeah, like I said, the Virginia Association of Housing Counselors, they do a monthly thing. I don't know a lot about it because I've never been to one of the sessions, but if somebody in the room knows anything about it or gets the emails and can share it, I'd appreciate it. I think I'm going to give you the date really quick. Wednesday, May 26th from 3 to 5 p.m. we will do this. So that's when it's coming up.
Cool. Thank you. Our next meeting is July 8th from 2 to 3:30. We look forward to having everybody there. And have we got any community updates or?
Anna and Kaylee, Jackie, this is Kelly. Before we go any further, I have Kimberly on the line with us, and I wanted to make sure that she is able to address everyone with the information that was shared earlier before we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, so hey, what I caught was great, Leanne. Thank you so much for doing that. Wow, we're getting up there, man. We're doing good things at these meetings. I know that it sounds like the Built for Zero was mentioned earlier, and I just wanted to let you know that it's a moving target, and so we are very, very, very proud that this community, not St. Joseph's Villa, but everybody in this community has worked together to bring down our count for homeless veterans and all people experiencing homelessness. So it was built. We've been working for 2 years with Built for Zero to try to functionally end homelessness. And let me just take a moment to talk about what functional zero means. So when you functionally end homelessness, we know that we cannot stop people from becoming homeless, that people are going to continue to become homeless. But when you hit something called functional zero, what it means is that you're at a point where whoever becomes homeless in your community, you have a resource and the capacity to rehouse them within 30 days. So it's really more about that 30 days than it is a specific number. However, Built for Zero has been working with us, and they've zeroed in on a particular number, and for them that number is 3. And we hit 3 veterans in February, and that's when only 3 veterans on the list that were still homeless and unserved at that point. And that's when they told us, wow, you guys have reached functional zero. We want to do we want to celebrate this. And so all that started. Meanwhile, a couple more veterans have become homeless. A couple more have already been housed since then. So it's a constantly moving target. And so I wish that they would go with a range, between 3 and 5 or something, that as long as we can get those veterans housed within 30 days, we're pretty much at functional zero. Because though Built for Zero is using that number 3, they really want us to be back at 3 before we make the announcement on Thursday. So the announcement is scheduled for next Thursday, the 20th, and I think it is going to go forward. So we are working closely, and I think I saw some people on the call that are from the maybe SSVF. So SSVF in our community, which is Supportive Services for Veteran Families, which is run by Virginia Supportive Housing, has those dollars. They have some veterans that are homeless. They're actively working to get them into housing. As I hope most of you know, there are ample financial resources in the community to serve veterans. There's money to serve veterans that are honorably discharged. There's money to serve veterans that are dishonorably discharged. And there's also money to serve veterans. In this case, one of them is actually over income for the SSVF. There's money to serve that veteran because he's over income or he or she's over income for that pot of money. But the problem is, as you all know, in the community, it's still hard to identify housing, to find a landlord that will work with you and to, just to get yourself in the door quickly. But it looks like, I think one veteran has already been housed in the past, 10 days, because last week we had somebody homeless and they've already been housed. So it's a constantly moving target. It's nothing to worry about. What we have is a lot to be proud of here. Really, really a lot to be proud of. But I do need to, it's in fact, Erica is on the phone right now with Built for Zero. And so we will keep you all posted. If for any reason we decide to not go forward with the press conference, we will let you all know, since you've been told now. So we'll try to figure that out, but it's something to be really proud of. And so we're not doing this because we thought it was something that we didn't come up with this as Cash or St. Joseph's Villa and say, gee, we did. This was something that a national organization said to us, you guys are there. And so we're just kind of waiting for them. They are the experts. So that's really all I can really share right now, but you're the first ones we will keep informed. And it will come through Erica, myself, or someone else at the Villa at this point, or someone else with Cash. We'll let you know. We'll send an email out. So I hope that gives you answer some questions. We're doing it. It's getting there. It's really getting there, and it's fairly exciting. But we'll try not to get you guys so much in the weeds of it next time.
Thank you, Kimberly. Kaylee, would you like to wrap us up?
Can I just ask real quick if anybody has, like, since we're finishing, like, 12 minutes early, anybody else has anything that they want to bring up? Can I ask that?
For future meetings.
Yeah.
And if you haven't checked out the CASH website, cashcoc.org recently, Jackie is, man, she's got stuff, all kinds of great information on there, including the interview with Kaylee. Is that still on there? Did you all see that little interview with Kaylee? So that everybody can meet our CASH COC coordinator. Yay, Nathan.
That's on there. It's gone out in our newsletter the last couple of months, and now all of that is content that can go on our CASH Facebook page as well. So we are here. Also, since we've had this meeting, I've had emails regarding getting a COVID mobile clinic going for our clients that had kind of slowed down when the Johnson & Johnson vaccine got pulled, but that's a work in progress too. But now I've been put in touch with some additional resources for that, so I'm appreciative of that, Leanne. Thank you. But that's all I have. Are there other community news or updates before we adjourn?
Yes, hi. I'd like to share. I'm Jamal Ellison with the Communities and Schools of Petersburg. Yes. I just would like to share about the food distribution taking place next Wednesday at Good Shepherd Baptist Church from 4 to 6 p.m. Kaylee, if I can, I would love to send out a flyer, that maybe you can disperse to everybody, but we're constantly looking for volunteers, to help run that. But also if anyone has any clients or anybody that they would like to share that information with, anybody can come on up and get fed. Again, it's from 4 to 6 p.m. next Wednesday at Good Shepherd Baptist Church.
Jamal, I am I have a really easy email and I am putting it in the comments. So you can get that, send me an email and we will get that certainly on our Facebook page, and we'll work with you on that. So thank you for that work. That's great.
Thank you.
I have something. I'm Dawn Rogers from the school division, Petersburg Schools. We are having a toiletry drive that will be May 22nd from 9 until items run out. I know our parent advisory did a toiletry drive earlier and things went within an hour. So we don't want to have an end time. So if I can share this, the flyer with you as well, so that you can put it out on your page and also tell your clients about it, that'd be great. And the items were donated from our chair of the school board based on a grant that he wrote.
So Dawn, you said toiletry items?
Yes, toiletries. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Would that include, I'm just curious, would that include things like diapers?
There aren't any diapers in this particular round. I looked at the supply that was in there and diapers are not in there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
But if you need anything, let me know, because we receive donations from Amazon and sometimes we do have diapers in there.
Okay.
Yes, Kaylee, I had one thing I would share.
Okay.
All right. There's a couple from, I think they live in Chesterfield, and what they do as part of their ministry is they cook meals, hot meals, and they deliver them to some of the motels in Petersburg that we have some of our clients. And they do that a couple times a week. Right now, they have asked that if there are any persons in our community that are interested in either cooking food, delivering the food, or helping them with donations, to let them know. And I can give you their information, Kelly, and you can distribute it. They get their food from the food bank. and whatever food they're able to give them, they cook it all up and deliver it. And they have a list of hotel participants. And when we've sent people to the hotel, and I can call them up and say, can you stop by and give them a meal? And they will do that. So like I said, they're looking for community members who might want to participate in that effort with them. And if so, I'll give you the information and they can contact you.
Okay, do you see my email in the comments?
Yes, yeah, I do.
Okay, it's like I say, it's still there. And does that go out on Wednesdays? What day does that usually go out? Do you know?
Do they go? I'll find out. They do it several times a week, but I'll get her more specific information. And like I said, the interesting thing is they're hot meals.
Hot meals, yes. It's not just a cold meal, a cold food drop off.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Okay.
That's nice. Right.
All right. Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question about that? You may have said, but did you say they're doing this just like as individuals or with the organization?
They are individuals. I mean, I think they're ministers, but this is their mission and their kind of ministry and what they feel like they're called to do. So they do it mostly on their own, and they're just looking for anybody else who would like to kind of join the effort. It's more of a community effort than an organizational effort.
Thank you for sharing that, Janice. That's a great ministry.
And I'll get them hooked up with cash next time.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. Please send me the information on them, and I'll gladly be in touch with them and probably work with them because I can cook.
They love that. Okay, great. Okay.
Okay. Anyone else? This is lovely.
I actually just got an email that came through about a training opportunity. There's a trauma-informed supervisor training that was put together by the Ticken in Northern Virginia, and they're doing a train the trainer on that. So if any of your organizations are interested, they sent me an email and said to share. So since I'm here, I can share that if anybody's interested in potentially being part of that. So you can let me know, or
and if you could share that with me in the College of Education, I would love to get that out to our faculty.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And Leanne, if you can get that out to me, I'll definitely share it with my staff.
Okay, I'll definitely let you know. And then if they're unable to do the one that's already scheduled, I did register for it. So I know me, and I think Regina Brown might be doing a different one. Anyway, I'll get the information to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay. We'll make it an auction. Do we have any other announcements?
If not, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
That sounds lovely.
So moved.
All right. Can I get a second?
A second.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you again for your time. We really appreciate it. Great training, Leanne.
Thank you, Leanne, so much. Thank you, Shauna, for running a great meeting.
Thank you. See you next month.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.